Hello and a very warm welcome to in Sepang, Malaysia. My name's Mark Dreyer, joined here by Mr. Sean Henshelwood. Sean, let's get straight to it. Alex Young has won 3 titles in a row. Can he make an unprecedented 4th?
Well, I wasn't sure earlier this weekend, but the pace he's shown.
And whatever. Very experienced. That's a good thing.
But it was a fantastic season to watch.
So let's talk about some of those younger. Alessio was just beaten by 1 point last year. There's Alessio, there's Martin Rump. Of some of these younger generation of drivers, who do you see as the key? Who's the biggest threat to Alex?
Well, I think there's a number of them. I think, quite honestly, Alessio Picariello has to be one of the favourites for this championship. Mitch Gilbert is another one, the young Malaysian-based Australian. He's going to be very, very fast too. But Sean Thong, he's the next generation of Asian drivers. His mentors are Alex Young and Marchi Lee. Not better people in this industry to learn from, and they've been the pioneers for Asian motorsport, and they've been winners. I mean, between them they share 4 championships in the Audi R8 LMS Cup, so he's really in the box seat. I think there's one driver who will shine this year.
And then of course we've got Marchi Lee, won the very first season of the Cup. Frankie Chung 2 years ago was just 1 point out of the title race, so it'd be great to see him bounce back after what was pretty disappointing season last year. But speaking of last year, let's take a look at some of the highlights from the 2016 season. The Audi R8 LMS Cup has seen some epic battles over the years. The established order was shaken up in 2016. Rookie Martin Rump took the first win of the season, showing the veterans that there was a new, youthful force to be reckoned with. Experience won out in round 2 as Rahel Fry took the win, but another rookie, Alessio Picariello, was right in the mix until the very end. Defending champion Alex Young got his first win of the year in Thailand before a Rump Picariello 1-2 again showed that the rookies were genuine contenders. The Malaysian master Alex Young won on his home track in Sepang in round 5, but a solid weekend from Picariello had the Belgian tied on points with Young at the midway point in the season. That newly established rivalry reached boiling point in Korea as repeated clashes between the pair ended up with both retiring early. But Young bounced back the best in round 8 to edge ahead in the standings, with 2012 champion Marchi Lee now in 2nd overall. More drama in Taiwan as Rump clashed with Young in round 9, but a 2nd place finish, followed by a first win of the year for Picariello, saw him take a 3-point lead into the season's final weekend. Another win for Rump saw him still in the mix until the very end, with Picariello just needing to finish above Young in the decider to win the title. But in an incredible climax, more contact between the top 2 saw the Belgian penalised for this move on Young, with the Malaysian winning his 3rd straight title by just a single point. He's back to shoot for an unprecedented 4th title, but Picariello, Rump and the rest will be doing everything they can to stop him. think, arguably, this is set up to be even more competitive than we've seen yet.
Oh, it will be. There's no question about the fact that we're going to see the best racing the Cup has ever presented. And that's what you want in progressive seasons, better and better racing. And this year will certainly prove that. So it was amazing to watch that review. But, hey, we're going to see this year play out. It'll be very, very good. So looks like we may have Sophie down on the grid, ready for the start of this first round, and she's with Bernd Gers, the Director of Audi Sport Customer Racing Asia.
Wow, thanks for the boys upstairs. And right now, Dr. Winkelman and Bernd Gers, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to the show. Right now, I'm so excited because we're going to start our very first stop of the whole season in about 10 minutes. So, Dr. Winkelman, flying from Germany, which is the headquarters of Audi, and coming here, which is a very beautiful Sepang, what is your experience so far? What is the most impressive atmosphere you have?
It's always good to be in Asia. Kuala Lumpur is a Formula One racetrack, so the people are very excited. And I think that the atmosphere is uncomparable to the one in Europe. Here the people are very close to the race. They can watch what all the drivers are doing. And I think that this is a benefit for Audi and also a benefit for our spectators.
Thank you so much, Dr. Winkelman. And Bernd, we know push-to-pass is back for this year. What is your expectation for the whole season starting right here in Sepang?
I'm happy to start here in Sepang again. It's more or less our second home base. And with the push-to-pass, we will see even more exciting overtaking of the drivers. And for the spectators, it will be interesting. You will see the remaining push-to-passes on the window in red and in green. So that's really, there you can see what the drivers are up to. And the drivers, of course, they have more tension when they drive. For the forthcoming races, we will go afterwards to Suzuka in Japan, and then Korea, and then to mainland China, Shanghai and Zhejiang. So we're expecting some more racing fun down the road.
Thanks for both of you for bringing us wonderful information, and we're looking forward to see what's going to happen for the very first race here in Sepang. Now let's send it back to our boys upstairs.
The push-to-pass initiative is back in the Cup this year. It's definitely going to be add some more excitement to the Cup. What else of some of the new innovative things that Audi is bringing into the Cup this season, Sean, for you stand out?
Well, the first season in 6 seasons, we're going to have a new tyre supplier, and Pirelli will be the control tyre supplier for the Cup. So some of the teams are taking a little bit of time just getting used to the dynamic of a different tyre from what they're used to. Push-to-pass is back. That's fantastic, but there's a slight edge to it because we have displays on all the cars that show how many drivers, how many push-to-pass left each driver has. Now, push-to-pass is an additional 50 horsepower. Each car has for up to 10 seconds. They can press the button as much as they want, but they're limited to how many they have. So it's a matter of strategy. It's a matter of when they use them at the start of the race, at the end of the race. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. A new service team, WRT from Europe, are in this year, so that'll be very interesting. And for the AM Cup, the prize at the end of the year is entry into the coveted Spa 24-hour race. So there's a lot of things to be looking forward to this year, on top of the fact we have some of the hottest young talents joining the championship. It's really become a very almost pro series this year, with the competition at the front of the field is going to be electric.
I mean, there's a lot to think about mentally. Do you think that gives the veterans the edge? You know, you've got to think about the new tyres, you've got to think about the push-to-pass, you've got all these other strategic elements. Someone like Alex Young, perhaps, is going to have that edge.
He certainly is, and as a 3-time champion, he's the man that everybody will be looking to. And we have Sophie down on the grid with Alex Young, the 3-time Audi Cup champion.
And starting the whole season for the first race here from second place. What is your strategy for this afternoon? Are you going to play safe to defend your place, or are you going to push harder to try to overtake?
Well, first of all, I'm very grateful for the people that have come out to show support. It's very strange having my first race here in Malaysia. I always love racing here in Malaysia, but it's a lot more stressful this time because we don't know what to expect. The tyres are quite different. I will see how it goes. You know, I don't think we've done enough long runs in practice. So if it works, we should be pretty competitive.
Good luck for you. See you very soon. And back to the boys upstairs.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how he does. I mean, he's got to start as the favourite. He's on his home track where he always performs well. 3 titles in a row, going for an unprecedented 4th, as we mentioned. But he does like to underplay his chances sometimes, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. But, I mean, we've had 8 races here for the Cup in 5 seasons. He's won 4 of them. He's been on pole a couple of times. He knows the circuit. Track advantage through being a local, I don't think it really exists anymore. The young guys and the really sharp operators can come into a new championship. Now, let's look at the championships for Alex Young over the last 3 seasons. And we've spoken about it. It could have been 4 championships. Of course, that big crash at the last round in 2013, he needed just 1 point on that Macau weekend. He had a big crash at Mandarin, destroyed the car. He had to sit and watch from the commentary box, if you don't mind, to see the rest of the championship play it and watch Adley Fong win the 2013 title by a single point.
But he hasn't had it all his own way, has he? I mean, he's been some very close races, that one in particular, and then last year with Alessio Picariello. So arguably luck has been on his side. You know, a tiny little thing the other way, and he's lost a couple of titles there.
Well, if you go back 2 seasons, of course, it was Frankie Chung who very nearly won the championship. Went down to the last race again. There was 1 point in it. Frankie missed out by 1 point. He hasn't had it easy. It looks that way when you look at the history books, but he's won 20 of the 56 starts he's had in the Audi R8 LMS Cup. It's a fantastic result. So he really is the standout. And okay, he's 40, but what does that really mean? He's a young 40, he's a fit man, and he loves this racing. And you've got to have that passion to keep driving you. So I think he certainly will be amongst the favourites this year.
Well, let's talk about right here in Malaysia. It's always hot and humid. Just looking out the window, with the it looked a moment ago as if the storm clouds were coming in. We had a huge thunderclap, and it wasn't. You know, it was looking a bit dicey there for a while.
Oh, it certainly was, and well, you've got to consider those things, certainly when you are in Malaysia. And here it is, 5.543 kilometres, built in 1999, Herman Tilke designed, Formula One circuits, hosted the Malaysian Formula One Grand Prix for 18 years. Sadly, this is the last year it will host that, but for the Cup, this will be the 5th event that we will have here at the circuit. So it is a very, very good circuit. Good mix of fast-flowing corners, long straights, tight corners. Certainly that turn 1-2 complex is very tricky for the start of any race here at Sepang. Akash Nandi, another of the young stars, Malaysian driver. He knows this circuit well too. We'll see a little bit more of the young KCMG driver, and that man, Alessio Picariello, he will really deliver the fight to Alex Young this year and the rest of the field.
Now, where does the push to pass come into play here on the Sepang circuit? Of course, you can't just constantly be firing all the way around, particularly with the hairpins and so on, but the drivers were saying they could probably use maybe up to about 6 or so per lap if they want to, of course, use it all in one time.
Absolutely. I mean, you could use it in the corner, but what's the point? There's no sense you drive off the corner that way. So what they will do is they will wait for the straight. They will use it off the start potentially to get to turn 1 a little bit quicker, or keep it to the end of the race where they can use it to move forward and to actually get some advantage, make some passing moves, because these cars are identical. All identical, 585 or 535, depending on where the push to pass is used. V10, 5.2 litre, rear-wheel drive, Audi R8 V10. I mean, these cars are identical, so you need a little bit of extra advantage. So let's give them some extra power at random points, and away we go. And it's going to be very exciting. But this year, we will enjoy it as commentators and fans because we'll see the number digital on the side. So it's going to be a great thing to see.
Sean, thank you very much. I'm going to let you run off to the commentary position, but we'll just run through the starting formation here. We've got Alessio Picariello in pole position, and then Mitch Gilbert, who will start from this first row of the grid alongside him. Alex Young, the man that everyone will be looking at here on his home track, starts in 3rd place. Martin Rump is in 4th. Sean Tong, the young Hong Kong driver, is in 5th. Frankie Chung, China Motorsports legend, in 6th position. Akash Nandi is going to be in 7th position alongside Marchi Lee on the 4th row of the grid. KOU, the Korean, starts in position number 9 alongside Stefan Rashelmi from Monaco's guest driver here in Malaysia. And then on the back row we have Jeffrey Lee and Ricky Yoon. So just coming up to the end of the formation lap, just moments away from the start of the race, and we will send it over to our commentary team.
Thanks, Dumb and Dumber. We're getting ready for the opener, and they're coming down actually to turn 4. This is Langkawi Curve, so they've got about 3/4 of a lap to go before we see this race. The season starts, and of course this is a rolling start, so they'll be going 2 by 2 round this iconic Sepang International Circuit. One great thing, reason why Asia loves this Audi R8 LMS Cup, it always evolving, always changing. They do not rest on their laurels. Push to pass is back. A great great comeback. This is one of the aspects of motor racing that is great to see, because do these drivers use their push to pass to attack? A lot of them will be saving their push to passes to defend any overtaking manoeuvres down those long 2 straights that form here at the Sepang circuit. There you can see the LEDs, there's 12 for the pros, which means they've got 12 push to passes. The amateurs have double that, so that means that Jeffrey Lee and Rick Yun have 24 push to passes, and as they come through turns 11 and 12, then they come down to the Sunway Lagoon, which is the penultimate turn. And of course, for some of these drivers, this is the first time they've actually been on this new resurfaced Sepang track, and you'll notice the difference at turn 2. They've taken the dip away, and as they come into turn 15, they've actually raised the track by 1 metre, so when they come around that corner they can go into deeper, and it is off camber as well. So a new track for some, as they've renovated this iconic circuit. So they come around Sunway Lagoon, you'll see them weaving around to warm up their tyres, and then the safety car will go into pit lane, and it'll be after Alessio Piccarello for the Belgian. He was runner-up last year by just 1 point. He has got double podium. He's already got 2 points in the bag, and he'll be ready to go on the red light with Mitch Gilbert as well. They're just now forming up the grid, and as they now come down into this revamped turn 15, of course, we've been racing it since 2013, so last year's race 2016 was over this refurbished track. But now we have Alessio, Mitch Gilbert on row 1, Young Rub row 2, Thong, Frankie Chen row 3, Nandi Lee row 4, row 5 is Riquelme and Yu, and the last row is Jeff Lee and Rick Yun. We wait for the lights, and a new season of the Audi LMS Cup is underway, the 6th season, and Alessio tries to muscle out Mitch Gilbert. On the outside is the 3-peat champion, Alex Young. Is he going to try and come round on turn 1? He just can't get there. So it's Alessio, Mitch Gilbert in second. Here comes Rump in 4th place, coming around the yin-yang section of turns 1 and 2. You can just see that dip has been taken away as they come into turns 3. They'll be going into Langkawi curve, but Alessio has it from Mitch Gilbert. Looks like he's trying to use a push to pass. So is Alex Young from Martin Rump. Back there you've got Sean Thong as they come around Langkawi curve.
It's interesting watching how this plays out. See the 2 young guys from Absolute Racing fighting at the front of the field. As you say, the veteran there in 3rd position. Noticing too a good battle into turn 1 and 2 between Machi Lee and Frankie Cheng. That's wound up with Frankie taking position 6 away, and they're immediately behind Sean Thong, who's doing a good job in the Tita racing car. So a nice clean start. We weren't sure what to expect, but it's interesting watching these 2 young guys charge away at the front of the field, and keep an eye on those numbers on the side of the car. Down to 11, he's used one of his push to pass at the front, has Alessio Piccarello, but when that flashes, as Graham pointed out, that's when they're on the push to pass. You can see down to 10 for Mitch Gilbert in 2nd position, so he's already got a couple that he's used in this effort to try and keep up with his teammate.
Now what's going to be interesting here is the sun is going down. The track temperature was a high of 52.5. It's around 42 degrees now, and it's going to get cooler, so the tyres may shift a little bit in their grippiness as they come around Sunway Lagoon. So Alessio looks like he's got a bit of a gap there, and coming through as well was Martin Rump on Alex Young. Of course, Martin Rump, the 21-year-old Estonian, he was going really hard for the championship. They're knocking each other to pieces there all the way down into turn 15, but it looks like Alessio is trying to control the pace, and we see if Martin Rump's got the inside line. Sean Tong's looking pretty good as well from Frankie Chen. 3 abreast going into turn 15. Martin Rump takes 3rd place from Alex Young. Sean Tong is looking for a good slipstream manoeuvre. Now, will Sean Tong use push to pass? Alex Young, you can see the flashing blinks on the side of the cars. That means there that Martin Rump is pushing hard to try and defend his position from Alex Young. Here comes Sean Tong. The lights, it almost looks like Leicester Square with all the lights flickering in and off. Coming round into turn 1, it is still Martin Rump in 3rd place. Alessio Piccarello is in the lead from Mitch Gilbert. Martin Rump's gone up 1. Alex Young's gone down to 4th place. Then it is Sean Thong from Frankie Chen in 6th. Jeffrey Lee, March Lee in 7th from KOU. Stefan Riquelme. Akash Nandi's gone down into 10th from Jeffrey Lee, and Rick Yun is 12th and last.
It's been an interesting start. It's great to see them starting to use those push to pass, and it's great to have this opportunity, Graham, to actually see when they are using it. We had to guess in the past where they were actually taking up the opportunity to use push to pass, whether it was the start to get away, whether it was to get involved in an overtaking move like we just saw there with Martin Rump. Interestingly, there's drivers like Sean Thong who are not using it near as much right at the start, and they're going to rely on that to come back later. But how's the pace of Picciarello at 2:01.74 on his first flying lap? That is impressive pace. This is lap record pace for a GT3 car. Certainly lap record pace for an Audi R8 LMS GT3. This is impressive. He's already up to 1.2 seconds ahead of his teammate. Now, it depends on the way they've adjusted the cars to come on later in the race or early in the race. That has a lot to do with tyre pressure. We'll talk a little bit more about that as the race unfolds. But certainly at the moment, Alessio's just punched out another fastest first sector. He's got the head down and he's charging, and very, very wide there too for Martin Rump. So too, sparks flying out the back of the car, the Audi Hong Kong car of Marchie Lee, the 2012 Audi R8 LMS Cup champion.
So they're averaging about 250 kilometres down these two straights with a hairpin at turn 15. Picciarello, the Belgian, well, he was so close last year. He only lost the title by 1 point. He's already got 2 poles so far. And there you can see Sean Thong just flashing at Alex Young. He's letting him know that he's around the corner as he comes in deep around this recambered turn 15. As he sets himself up, can he get closer to Alex Young to take over this 4th place? But it's still, as you were, Picciarello in the lead from Mitch Gilbert, Martin Rump, Alex Young, Sean Thong, Frankie Chen, March Lee, Kyu, Stefan Riquelme, Akash Nandi, Jeffrey Lee and Rick Hyun. So they're just settling themselves down for the long haul. And Mitch Gilbert, of course, he wants to win round here because he was actually born here in KL.
And he's already had victory here this year. In fact, won the very first round of the Blancpain GT Series Oza Championship about a month ago here in that very car, and sharing the drive with a person who's already won with the Audi R8 LMS Cup in recent years, Aditya Patel. Sadly, the Indian driver didn't take part in a 3rd season with the Cup, but his teammate in the Blancpain Series, Mitch Gilbert, has shown a very, very good turn of pace since he got into that car at the start of this weekend. Of course, OD Racing making their debut in the championship this year. Service team, of course, Absolute Racing. So they are right in the mix. The 2 Absolute Racing cars at the front. That is the KCMG operated car of Martin Rump in position number 3 in the champion racing team. On screen, chrome livery this year, looks very, very good. And of course, he was a 4-time winner last year on his debut. I spoke to both Alessio and to Martin earlier today, and they said the one thing they can bring in this year that they didn't have last year is experience. They know what the cars do, they know how they work. There's Alessio on screen in the MGT by Absolute machine. He said, I can take that experience away and use it. The other thing that they know is going to help them in the championship is consistency. That's the one thing that gave Alessio the opportunity to battle for the title last year. He won only 1 race compared to Alex Young's 3 and the 4 victories that fell by way of Martin Rump. But Martin too admitted, I wasn't consistent enough. Consistency is going to help win this championship. You have to finish races. You cannot afford to DNF, and that means do not finish, obviously. We need to get results on the board and keep championship points alive. So they say second place is the first loser often, racing drivers. They're competitive. They all want to win. But when you're putting a championship together, very sideways there on the gas is Mitch Gilbert. He wants to be careful he doesn't tear up these DHC Pirelli tyres too early in this race. He needs to keep them under him just in case he can close down the pace of Alessio Picciarello and start to move forward in this race. But up front, 2.4 seconds now, the lead for the young Belgian.
Well, not only has Alessio taken another half a second out of Mitch Gilbert, he's cruising at Alessio, and he's still got 10 pushes to passes to go. So at the moment, you've got to say that Alessio is controlling this race very nicely. Still no movement in the field. It's still Mitch Gilbert and Martin Rump. Alex Young is currently in 4th. We've got 10 laps to go, so they're just now getting into a position. March Lee's trying to defend himself. That is Frankie Chen on the inside, so Frankie has overtaken Marchie Lee there. In fact, that was a KOU, maybe. We're looking there at Stefan Riquelme. So there's the 31 car. That was Frankie Chen, and he actually retook Marchie Lee for 6th place with KOU of Korea in 8th place. So as we see, Frankie looks like he's got 9 pushes to passes to go. This is going to be, it's almost like a game of poker now, because as they go past the start-finish straight, I'm sure some of the pit crew will be noticing who's got so much, and they can signal back to their driver next time around, the guy in front, how many push to passes to go. So it adds another dimension to driver strategy here. There's going to be some really good teamwork between driver and pit crew to actually work out how to get past the guy in front.
Now, when it comes down to strategy, one of the things that often plays into the equation is tyre pressure. Now, what they can do is they can run their tyres very, very low. So what that does is it takes a while for the pressure to build in the tyre as it heats up. That means that they have the ability for the success or the grip of the tyre to come in a little bit later in the race. Drivers that start with the tyre pressures a little bit higher get their tyres up to pressure and up to temperature a lot sooner, so that allows them greater grip. They can forge ahead off the start. We saw it last year, if you recall, with Alex Young. He used that to his advantage, and towards the end of the race the field started to close him down because his tyres will start to go off towards the end of the race. So there's that strategy playing in, and it may well be that Picariello, we can't discount that he's got huge talent. We saw that last year, and he's ready for it. He thinks he's fitter, stronger and better prepared to run this fight this year. But he is getting away in leaps and bounds at the moment. Nearly 3 seconds now over his teammate Mitch Gilbert, who has a 2.4 second or 2.2 second lead over Martin Rump. So there is good advantage to these guys to be pushing hard, but don't be surprised if you see the field start to close in on them as the laps wind down.
So 4 down, they're on their 5th lap, 9 to go. There you can see Martin Rump. He has been a real good true find, the Estonian. He came here and he's got a really good record that when he's on pole, he normally closes out the race and wins. But today, he's starting in 4th place. He's got onto the podium at the moment. The 21-year-old is battling hard, and that's another good thing about this series. Age is no barrier. Sean Tong, of course, has come in. He's doing really well. Alessio's 23 years old. Martin Rump's 21. So it's not just the old boys that are getting behind the wheel of the cars. This is a really good series for development as well. As we see there, that is Mitch Gilbert. Australian under heritage, but born here in KL. And there's Alessio. He's got 9 more pushes to passes, and he is really pouring it on. Just see the distance between himself and Mitch Gilbert there. If he manages to get up to about 3.5 seconds, then he can just turn the wick of the engine down, and he can just pace himself quite nicely, because the rest seem to be also rans if Alessio can just keep this together. Oh, and we've got a spin there. That is Rick Yun and Jeffrey Lee. The amateurs have come together. That is major drama in the amateur class. Jeffrey Lee has beached it as well. That's a beach whale on the gravel. That's going to be really hard to get out, because these cars do weigh a ton. So to try and spin the wheels and rock that car out of the gravel, I think that's terminal for Jeffrey Lee. So Rick Yun is going to get 25 points if he can just get this car home. So there's 1 out in the amateur class. Rick Yun is the only survivor. As they go past the line now, it's still Picariello from Mitch Gilbert, Martin Rump, Alex Young, Sean Thong. Then it's Frankie Chen, Marchi Lee Kayu, Stefan Rakelmi, Akash Nandi. Rick Yun will be 11th, and Jeffrey Lee is beached in the gravel.
Interesting to see whether that brings out a safety car period, depending on what the race control thinks about the position that Jeffrey Lee finds himself in, and exactly which part of the circuit that is. Doesn't look like he's going to get himself. It's double waved yellows, so that will allow the field to just be aware that there is an issue, drop the pace a little bit and make sure they don't put themselves or Jeffrey in any harm. But that's frustration for them. We were talking about push to pass earlier. There's a variation between the different classes. There's 3 classes of competition. There's the pros, there is the amateurs, and there's the AM Plus, of which Jeffrey Lee is one. They get different numbers of push to pass. 12 push to pass opportunities, as we see the windscreen wiper on now for Alessio Picariello. There may be some slight drizzle. We had an electrical storm in the area just before the start of this race. 24 push to pass for the AM Plus driver, and unfortunately he won't be using any more of those because he's currently beached in the gravel, and 36 push to pass for the AM drivers. So they have that advantage to use to try and bring themselves further forward. There's the SC board, so it looks like we will see the field budge back up.
What's going to be interesting is now Picariello has used up 2 push to passes. Now if he had saved those push to passes and the safety car comes out, he would have retained a couple more for later on. So has he burnt 2 push to passes unnecessarily? Because now the safety car will come out, they'll concertina up, and now it's going to be a major poker with these players. How many push to passes do they still have left? So there's going to be some two-way communication between themselves and the pit crew. Alessio must be really annoyed with himself, because he was on, I think, 10, and then a lap and a half later it ends up with 8, and now the safety car comes up. So basically he's burnt 2 push to passes unnecessarily. So we just wait now for them to reform. There's 7 laps to go. and it may take 1 lap or 2 laps for Jeffrey Lee just to be pushed out of the gravel and come back into pit lane. So as you can see, the beautiful vista of Sepang. It's now getting into 5 o'clock. The sun's going down. The temperature is also coming down as well. So the track may be a little bit more slippery. As you can see, the safety car, the cars now, they're trying to keep the heat into the tyres as well. And we're getting humidity is probably, when I last checked, it was about 75%, with the cloud cover of 75% as well. So there you can see Mike Lee, he's playing it cool with 11 push to passes, and in front of him there was Frankie Chen, who had 7. So off the start, we could have some real interesting, intriguing manoeuvres down the long straight here at the Sepang International Circuit.
The other thing that'll be interesting, of course, is the way they've structured the tyre pressures to get the car up to speed. I would almost guarantee that Alessio Picariello has started using his strategy on tyres to get away from the field. That's what they plan to do. Just go, just be gone. He's used the push to pass to open up the gap to make sure Mitch Gilbert and the rest of the field's behind. You can never predict an incident like that occurred between Rick Yoon and Jeffrey Lee. So you can't be prepared for that sort of thing. You do need some in reserve. But what was interesting was to see who has been using those. Now, there's an interesting driver behind the wheel of that V10 Audi R8 Quattro at the front of the field, and I think you might know him. He's another Australian who actually does live in Australia. Interestingly, Mitch Gilbert's never lived in Australia, but he's named an Australian. So his parents are both Australian. He's always been a Malaysian. He did spend 5 years in the UK, so he's got this odd accent. It's something a little bit like yours. You probably understand him better than I do, but we'll take him as an Australian. He's a race winner. He's a top young guy. Not sure about his grey hair though.
It's a bit like us in tennis. If Andy Murray wins, he's English. If he loses, he's Scottish.
Hey, I've got Scottish heritage. But anyway, getting back to what's going on track, Daniel Bilski is driving this weekend the Audi R8 safety car. So he was running at the front of this field. He'd be quite happy to be leading the field of the Audi R8 LMS Cup around. Of course, a former AM Cup champion. So this is really going to get interesting. Tyre temperature, you can see how much they're weaving to try and keep that tyre temperature up. He had an advantage, Alessio. I fear that advantage is gone. Can Mitch Gilbert do it? Can Martin Rump do it? I don't know. I reckon that guy in the #1 car, sitting in position 4, might be the one to keep an eye on. He's raced 8 races there have been now at the Cup, at Sepang. 4 of those have been won by Alex Young. He would be your favourite, I think, as you look at this. 8 push to pass for the leader, 10 for the car in position 2, Mitch Gilbert. It's going to be a very interesting run. Lights still on a safety car. Looks like we will go around another lap, and that will bring us to the halfway point of this race, and it'll be a very interesting closing 6 laps, I think, Graham, and I'm not sure who I'd like to put my money on, because this field's just it's too close. There's too many stars right through the field.
Well, Alessio must be absolutely frustrated, because he got a good start. He went hard. He built up a 5.6 second lead. He burnt 2 push to passes right before the coming together of Rick Yoon and Jeffrey Lee, and now he's seen that 5.6 second lead just vanish as they all concertina up behind this safety car. So Picariello, Mitch Gilbert must be quite happy that he's got 2 extra push to passes as well. The key player is Marchie Lee. He's only used 1 push to pass, so he's lurking just down in 7th place for the latter stages as well, and that's a great innovation, especially here in Asia. There you can see the 9 there on Alex Young's car means 9 pushes to passes, so he's only used 3 so far, and it's a great innovation by Audi and the R8 LMS Cup. It gives you, the viewer, a new dimension into the tactics that the drivers have to think about while they're hurtling around these iconic tracks around Asia. Not only do they have to think about the guy in front, the guy behind, they've also now got this new element of poker strategy with these push to passes as well. So in theory, it's just going past that corner, it looks like Jeffrey Lee's car has been towed away. So as they come around the KLI curve, we may see that Daniel Bilski pull into the pit lane. Of course, the flashing light still means the racing under the safety car, but when they come out of Sunway Lagoon down into the reconfirmed turn 15, they may find that Daniel Bilski has the lights off, which means they'll be good to go for 5 laps left in the race.
We should just explain very quickly, push to pass. It isn't additional power they've found in the car. So what they've done is they've run these cars effectively without the restrictors that they would use in full GT3 competition. What they do is they run restrictors for the air inlet to have a balance of performance. You'll hear the words BOP in GT3 racing all over the world. It's always a bugbear, but they don't have to worry about that sort of thing with the Cup. All these cars are identical, so they've allowed the cars to be effectively unlimited around the 585 horsepower. They've put a new throttle body on the engine, and they have retarded effectively electronically by 50 horsepower the engine. So when they hit the button, what they're effectively doing is getting back to their full power. It isn't additional power, it is just allowing them to run at full power. So there isn't anything particularly magical about it. They haven't found extra horsepower. This is a full-blooded, basically modified road car, a V10 5.2 litre Audi R8. As we're underway again, Alessio's on the throttle already. He's seen the safety cars pulled off and he's gone. He's taken the slight advantage. He leads this field, so he can do that. It's probably gone in a little bit too deep into the final corner, and he wants that great drive. Used all of the exit to slingshot off the final corner down across the line and continue this race. And we're into 5 laps to go. Windscreen wipers going. Is the rain going to play a part in this, Graham, and what is going to be the outcome?
Well, it looks okay from our view, look at the back of the track, so maybe he's just trying to clear off some dust and grime off his windscreen as they go through the turn 2. Turn 2 is not as dramatic as it was when Sepang was first built. They come through now going into Langkawi Curve, turn 4 in a couple of minutes' time, but Alex Young took that pretty hard as well, but he's still got 8 pushes to passes. You can see the lights flashing on Sean Tong. He's trying to get onto the back of Alex Young as they go through Langkawi Curve. It's still Picarelli from Gilbert, Rump, Young, Tong, Frankie Chen, March Lee, Koyu, Stefan Riquelme, Akash Nandi and Rick Yun are the 11. As March Lee looks like he was trying to make a manoeuvre on Frankie Chen there. The lights were blinking all over the place going through, and I think he's still on the tail of Frankie Chen. This could be interesting. Can he get enough momentum? March Lee, the silver and gold car, just coming into view in a minute, right behind the red car, but we're looking at the battle between Alex Young and Sean Tong at the moment.
I'm going to hazard a guess that that is not all that well in the number 1 car. It seems to be moving around an awful lot. Sean Thong can clearly see something. Applying pressure with flashing headlights on a 3-time champion and former Formula 1 driver is probably not really going to work. And in fact, he would have learned some of those tactics from Alex Young himself, Sean Thong. But it doesn't look like a happy car. Very wide on the exit of 2. It's very wide here again. And it doesn't look to be as settled as he liked. The Phoenix Racing Asia guys, even though they raced on these tyres at the Blancpain Series races,
Alex Young, he's gone 4x4.
Oh, and into a spin. That's put him out. He's got to keep out of the gravel and keep it going. It's not a well car. That's not where he wanted to be. And this has dropped him right back down the order. And that is back behind now Akash Nandi. So he's dropped right back down the field to about position number 10. This is not what he needed to do. The team were talking about yesterday. They weren't 100% happy with the way they were making the car work on the Pirellis. That's Marchi Lee, KOU. Obviously Alex Young and Sean Thong were just not 100% happy as now Mitch Gilbert gets onto the push to pass and fires down the front straight in pursuit of his teammate. But 1.5 seconds at the front of the field, Alessio Picariello. But now the reigning champion's got it all ahead of him.
So Alex Young's actually come down to 9th place, right behind Akash Nandi. Rick Young is 10th. KOU's had a little bit of a problem. He's down into 11th. So it just goes to show you how fine-tuned these cars are. Just one little error and you're along for the ride. And Alex Young, well, I think Sean Tong is happy because just before Alex Young got it all wrong, Sean Tong had 7 pushes to passes, Alex Young had 9. So the advantage there was with Alex Young. As you can see, 6 left for Martin Rump. He's trying to get onto the coattails of Mitch Gilbert. There is Martin Rump, the Estonian. He is fighting hard to try and get in front of Mitch Gilbert. But Alessio, he's now trying to squeeze that extra little bit out of his car. He's 1.5 seconds ahead of Mitch Gilbert. He's controlling the pace. He just knows he's got around 20 kilometres between himself and victory, so he doesn't really need to do anything silly. As now Frankie Chen sees Sean Tong in his sights. He is only 0.6 of a second behind Sean Tong. Marchi Lee, he's now in 6th place. He's only 0.3 of a second behind Frankie. He could now reckon with all his pushes to passes, he could actually now mount a challenge with 4 laps to go to try and get past everyone to get to Martin Rump. So Marchi Lee, he's playing it cool. He's saving his pushes to passes, but if he wants to do anything, now's the time to go. And there is Martin Rump. He's still got 6 push to pass. This is the major new dimension of the Audi R8 LMS Cup. We'll be mentioning this quite a lot because this is where how they manage to try and get closer to the car in front, or they try and defend. You can see coming all the way down this back straight, the cars are flashing on the side. That means they're using their pushes to passes. Alex Young must be absolutely kicking himself after that little error. Out of the back, Rick Young and KOU as Sean Tong comes around this designed, turn 15. Here's Marchili. Now, is he going to now start using his pushes to passes? You can see Frankie Chen is trying to defend himself as well. Now, how many has Marchili still got? It looks like 9. It looks like 9 still to go. But there is Mitch Gilbert. He's got 5. But Alessio still in a regal position with 3 to go. If he, as long as he keeps on the black stuff, Alessio should be okay here as they come down towards Langkawi Curve.
They're all pushing, aren't they? I mean, I've never seen so many cars off the circuit. They're using the apex and a little bit more. I don't know that that's what caught Alex Young out. We were surmising that there may have been an issue with the #1 car. It just didn't look well balanced. It could have been a tyre issue, but maybe it just took his attention off what he was doing. They're right on the ragged edge and really pushing hard. Now, is that a slow-moving car just to left of field? Have we lost one there?
That's
yes,
Mitch
it is.
Gilbert.
That's Mitch
Gilbert's gone.
Mitch Gilbert is out of this race. Something has gone
all the way
on.
down here. So it looks like Martin Rupp, Sean Tong now is going to make sure that he's on the podium position. So Piccirillo, he's just cruising at the moment, and all the dramas, they're knocking each other off the circuit, really. They're breaking their machines. So Piccirillo is looking in his rear view mirror, and he's liking what he sees with Mitch Gilbert going down. Let's see a replay. This looks like it's a Alex Young one. He gets onto the grass, goes over the curb, and he's just along for the ride there. He can't control that spin whatsoever. So Alex Young, that's what's happened. He's now down into 9th place. But another new dimension of this Audi R8 LMS Cup is they qualified already for race 2. Now, it used to be last year that the fastest lap was your qualifying for the next race, and the winner then had to carry over the 50 kg penalty for the next race. But now all the qualifying is done. Alex Young must be pretty happy that the new rule changes have benefited him for this weekend.
I'm not so sure because, well, it has, you're right, because he set a fairly lowly time, whereas in qualifying he was pretty quick in both sessions, certainly top 5 in both sessions. The interesting one too was Piccirillo, pole in both sessions and a 2:009. That was an electric time for a GT3 car without push to pass. That was amazing, the effort he put in to take pole for both races, and he's taking full advantage. As you said, Martin Rump did it in the past. Andre Couto, if you go back a few years, back before my time, he would start from pole in 5 races and go on to win 5 races. So he used that advantage. This could be everything Alessio Piccirillo needs this weekend to come out of this championship opener here at Sepang and lead through as a slingshot for the rest of the championship.
So 2 to go, and Frankie is out of bullets. So this is now the move for Marchili. If he knows that Frankie's out of bullets, then he can make a real big move. There's Sean Tong, he's only got 2 left. So how much has Marchili still got left in the tank for to get past on these push to passes? I'm sure Frankie Chen will be weaving all over the track using his racecraft to make sure that Marchili can have as much difficulty to get past him as possible. There you can see Martin Rump. Well, he's now 4.1 seconds behind Alessio. So the Belgian is sweet as chocolate. He's going to get the 25 points today in this race, and then it's all about tomorrow. So Martin Rump must be looking in the rearview mirror. He's about 2 seconds ahead of Sean Tong, so he can just kind of keep it easy now. Mitch Gilbert's in the pits. Sean Tong is in 3rd. He's about 1.2 ahead of Frankie Chen. Marchili must be sizing up Frankie Chen to come out of turn 14 Sunway Lagoon to either bypass him at turn 15 or all the way down to the home straight. So Alessio, a really good weekend. He got his strategy right. He's got 2 poles in race 1, race 2. He's going to pick up maximum points in this first race, and the way it's going, he could have a really good day tomorrow as well. He's
still using push to pass, but I mean, there's no sense taking it back into the pits at the end of the race with you. You might as well just keep that advantage going, keep stretching everybody else. And what it's doing now, Marchili starting to use his, is it's forcing the others to try and keep that pace going. Now, Alex Young, last time round, 2:034. He's really got nothing for the guys in front of him. That's most unusual. It's not really the way the reigning champion wanted to start this race, but we've seen him start well down the championship in past years, and nothing stops him. We've seen 56 races from the Malaysian driver in the 5 seasons of the Cup. He's won 20. In fact, he's won 21 if we include that Zhuhai race we had to pull in 2015. He really is the star performer in this championship. The next greatest number of wins in the Cup over the last 5 seasons. Any ideas? Marchili.
I'm watching the race.
Marchili. Sorry, it was a test. Top 10, so 10 results on top of the podium for Marchili over those ensuing years. So he's really still in this championship, as are all these drivers, quite obviously. It's the first round of the championship. No sense going back into pit lane with the push to pass in reserve, and Alessio is just going to keep using that till he gets all the way to the checkered flag. And what a way to open his account for the new season.
So Alessio is going to cruise to victory here. He's 4 seconds roughly in the lead from Martin Rump. Martin Rump's going to have a really good cruise home, I think, as they're coming around here. They're at turn at number 9. That's Berejara Tinneman corner. As he's got 3 more pushes to passes, so it's a bit like money. You can't take it with you when you're in the grave. So he's going to possibly use those 3 pushes to passes down this long straight just to keep that advantage. Make sure the car gets home in good time, as the rest now are well, Marchi Lee. I'm quite surprised he didn't try and make a move on Frankie Chen there, as Frank is out of bullets as they make their way now down to turn 14, Sunway Lagoon. As now you can see Alessio is coming down this long back straight, turn 15, and you can see also there Martin Rump just using up all his pushes to passes, but it's going to be in vain, as now Alessio comes round turn 15, the final corner. He's just now got 100 metres to go, and Alessio Piccarello wins round 1 of the 2017 Audi R8 LMS Cup from Martin Rump. 3rd there was Sean Tong. 4th will be Frankie Chen. 5th, Marchi Lee. Stefan Rakelmi's had a really good race as the guest driver. He finishes 6th. Akash Nandi 7th. Alex Young, bad luck in 8th. KOU is going to come round in 9th place, and then we'll be waiting for Rick Yun, who is actually in the 3rd sector. And fairly soon we'll see Rick Yun coming across the line. Mitch Gilbert, of course, looks like he may have had mechanical failure, or possibly the tyres, as he ended up in the pits. And Jeffrey Lee, of course, had that coming together with Rick Yun, so he did not finish. So 12 went out, 10 did not finish. 2 did not finish, 10 finished, of course, in the first round. So basically, as we run down the field, Piccarello then gets 25 points. 18 for Martin Rump, 15 for Sean Thong, 12 for Frankie Chen, 10 for Marchi Lee. Stefan Rakelmi, well, the guest driver, in 6th place. Let's see if he gets 8 points. If he does, then it's Akash Nandi who will get 6 from Alex Young, returns 4. KOU gets 2. And Rick Yun, the amateur, in the overall category gets 1 point. So that is a superb start to the 2017 season. The thrills and spills of the Audi R8 LMS Cup, and you can see there how vital those pushes to passes have made this series even better from last season. As I say, this is one of Asia's favoured and most loved motor racing series in the region, because this series always evolves. They don't stand still. They make sure that every season it's more and more exciting for the viewer and the fans watching at home on the internet around the world. So there is Martin Rump, the runner-up, and Martin Rump will be pleased to get into 2nd spot. Of course, he was looking for 3rd all the way, then unfortunately Mitch Gilbert had to retire. So Martin Rump in 2nd, and Sean Thong, how about this? Possibly the 3 youngest drivers in the field finish 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Alessio Piccarello was 23 years old, Martin Rump is 21, and I think Sean Tong's still in shorts when he gets out of the car. He's that young. So they come into pit lane, and I'm sure the Belgian is going to be absolutely delighted with his day's work. As I say, we had 2 qualifying sessions this morning. He got pole in both, which means tomorrow he will be on P1, and right behind him will also be Alex Young as well in P2. That's the reason why I was saying that this new rules about qualifying has benefited Alex Young, because Alex Young did not have the 2nd fastest lap of this race, so he would not have started P2 tomorrow. And Alessio tomorrow, the front row will be Alessio Piccarello, Alex Young from Gilbert and Martin Rump. That's your top 4 tomorrow, and we race in the morning. So there you can see Piccarello, runner-up of 2016. He's delighted that he's got one already on the board, and when he finds out that Alex Young finished 8th, I think there'll be even more of a bigger smile under that helmet. So there you go, that is a superb opening round of the Audi R8 LMS Cup. We've got 1 more tomorrow as well, and we are Pan-Asian. Don't forget, we go to Suzuka in June, Korea in July, Shanghai in September. Zhejiang is the finale in October. So if you are around Suzuka June the 10th, 11th, come and see us. If you're in Korea, then get on down to South Korea for to support KOU and Team Audi Korea. You can support Team Audi Korea July the 15th and 16th. Then, of course, Shanghai, the 9th and 10th of September, and we finish our finale in October, the 20th and the 21st of October at Zhejiang, which is a new circuit. Okay, let's see how happy Alessio is. He's with Sophie right now.
Congratulations, Alessio, from pole to win. It took a while for you to take your first win of the whole season, but you won the first race this year. Do you feel you're a better driver now?
I don't think I'm a better driver. I think I'm different in the head. I'm enjoying much more, and it's paying off. Actually, I had a break of 6 months, so I couldn't test or anything, but I trained hard at gym and mentally, and it looks like it's paying off.
It's a good preparation as well as a good start of the whole season. Congratulations, and back to our panel.
Okay, thanks, Sophie. So Alessio bags 25 points, and as I say, the young guns get onto the podium. Alessio's 23 years old, Martin Rump 21, and if you haven't seen Sean Tong, wait until you see him. He should really still be doing his exams at school. He's so young, Sean. So now we're just getting ready for Martin just to take a little bit of a breath, and we'll fairly soon hear his views on that first race of this 2017 Audi R8 LMS Cup. Let's find out right now with Sophie.
Marty, talk us through the start, especially when you managed to get past Alex and into the third place.
It was a very exciting start. I didn't really expect much. I just tried to keep a cool head, and fortunately we got through the first two corners. But then he started making mistakes in sector 2, and I saw that there might be a gap opening for me. And into 14, it went a little bit wide, and I put my car there in front. And then we had like a drag race on the back straight. He was on the right, I was on the left, and we were looking at each other and waving. And then into last corner, I managed to get the edge and get the gap, quickly.
Thank you so much. And back to our commentators.
Thanks, Sophie. So tomorrow we've got Martin Rump in P4. As I say, Alessio is the pole sitter, and the third place driver, Sean Thong, well, he's going to be P6 tomorrow. So it's going to be quite an interesting starting grid. Tomorrow, of course, they're actually on a grid formation. It won't be a rolling start tomorrow, so it'll be Piccarello Young on round 1. So here we go. Here's the babyface assassin, Sean Thong, with Sophie.
Chantal, the very first podium of the whole season, how pleased were you about your performance today?
I think the car is a lot better than practice and qualify, and it's good enough to secure podium position, so I'm really happy about it. But I think there's still room for improvement because we are still lacking some pace compared to the first and 2 cars. But in general, I'm really happy. Thank you, the team. Thank you, sponsors, for being here, for supporting me. And I think it's a good start for the championship as well.
Thank you so much, Chantal. And now let's back to the boys upstairs.
Sophie. Well, Sean, good to have you back here. I mean, it's clear to say, I think, we have a new kid in town. I mean, Alessio started in pole position. He got away at the front. He lost his lead when the safety car came back out, but it looked pretty comfortable. He took a long time to get that first win of the season last year. He's straight off the mark here.
Well, it took until Taiwan last year for him to get that one victory that he had last year. Martin Rump had 4. Alex Young had 3. But I don't think he doubted for a second he could do this. Pole in both sessions this morning. So he'll start from the P1 position for race 1 today, which he did, converted that to victory. He could do the same thing again tomorrow. I think he really is going to be the standout, and I think even in his own mind already, he thinks he will be the one they'll be chasing this year. And if you talk to the others, even, well, quite honestly, Alex Young, a 3-time champion, 21-time race winner, he's already said it is going to be Alessio that's going to be the tough one to beat this year. So I think we've seen the foundations laid for what's going to be an outstanding championship.
Well, he certainly laid down an early marker. Let's talk about Alex. That big moment where he lost control, went off and tried to rejoin, and then Sepang just lost it, didn't he?
Well, I think you saw all the drivers were really pushing to the edge. You saw 2 wheels over the curbs. They were really... Look at Martin Rump. He looked like he was really worn out at the end of that race. They'd been working very hard. Now, it doesn't take much to go that little step too far. And Alex brought it off the side of the circuit, wanted to rejoin the circuit, but got a slight dip. You can't control it once you've lost traction with the circuit. So he really didn't have any opportunity to regain that, had to recover from the spin, work his way back forward. He finished, that's important, he gets points, but it's going to be a tough run. But we've seen it before. He hasn't always got to a championship victory by having multiple wins at the start of the year. He knows the way this works. Just focus now, and I would expect you'll see him come back strong tomorrow.
Well, let's take a look at that incident from Alex and the rest of the highlights from this afternoon's race.
Between we'll use the word veterans, Frankie Cheng and Marchie Lee, a little bit further back in the pack, but they were straight onto the push to pass to get that early advantage. But they couldn't really do much about Alessio up front, Mark. He just disappeared off into the distance before that safety car.
And as we started to see some of the numbers on those cars at the back indicating how many push to passes they'd used, Alessio had actually used fewer than the majority of the other drivers. He got away cleanly and then managed to just keep a lot in reserve, so that was great for him. But it's so good to see the flashing lights on the car, so as viewers we know exactly who's using it. We'll see the restart a little bit later on when almost all the field, again, except Alessio, used it at the same time.
Well, that was a great innovation for the Cup this year, for us to be able to be involved in that whole race, to see the way things played out. And we really enjoyed it up in commentary, and I'm sure the fans around the circuit enjoyed it too. Sean Thong, a great job, right on the tail of one of his mentors there in Alex Young in the #1 Audi R8 LMS Cup car. And there it went a little bit wrong. He was just rejoining the circuit. There was a slight bump, and you can't do anything about it. He lost all grip on the circuit. Your aero's not going to work, your tyre grip's not going to work, and he recovered to come back in, but still a little bit further back down the order. And the Phoenix Racing Asia team watching on from the garage there. Frustration for one, but then on the flip side, the Teeter team car of Sean Thong, that elevated him up to position #3 after the retirement, of course, of Mitch Gilbert. Was something that we weren't quite expecting to see in the OD racing car. We'll find out a little bit more about that after this race and report in as we go through this program and into tomorrow as to exactly what happened to the young Malaysian-based Australian.
That's right. It was a good start from him. Not, of course, the finish that he would have hoped for, but he certainly, you know, his performance earlier on has shown that he's going to be definitely in the mix, along with Alessio, along with Alex, with Martin Rump, of course. So it's going to be a very, very strong field. And as you said, we'll hear what's happened to Mitch later in the race. What other performances stood out for you today?
Well, certainly Martin Rump. We saw him last year, 4-time winner, very cool character. Again, he did look like he had worked very, very hard, but he got second points. That is important. And we saw those two drivers, Alessio Picariello and Martin Rump, 2 seasons ago in the Formula Masters China Series, going head-to-head. They shared basically all the wins between them. So they are the coming drivers in these championships. So very, very good.
Well, we're just getting ready to see the podium, so let's go join them.
And there he is, Alessio Picariello, victory number 1 for the season. His iconic move, the champion driver, position number 2, and that is Sean Thong, the rising young star of Asian motorsport, in position number 3. Rick Yoon joining them, taking the AM Cup victory, and of course he's the teammate to Martin Rump in the Blancpain GT Series Asia Championship in the champion racing team machine. So 3 young guys. I mean, we'll call Rick a young guy. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. But 3 young guys on the podium. Is this the way we're going to see the 2017 Audi R8 LMS Cup Series play out? What do you think?
Well, I was going to say the average age of these 3, probably 22, I think. And with Marchi and Alex both turning 40 last year, it's going to be even harder for them to get back. Of course, it's early days. One thing I wanted to ask you, which we'll probably join just after the anthem, but we'll get back to that in just a moment.
Fantastic to see Stefan Winkelmann here from Europe. Of course, he is at the helm of the Audi Sport program, and it just goes to show how important the Audi R8 LMS Cup is. One of very few one-make championships for a manufacturer like this worldwide, and certainly one of the leading championships of this kind anywhere in the world. So certainly an important moment. And for these young guys, this is something that they will certainly remember well into this season, and a great drive there for Martin Rump in position 2. But certainly Alessio has laid the foundations. But how cool a character is he? He's not showing too much emotion. He's made his trademark move, but really he has shown a very clean pair of heels to the field in this opening race, and that could lay the foundations for what will be a very interesting year. So we have an Absolute Racing team entry on the top step. Second step for the KCMG service team. Of course, Rick Yoon too, taking the AM victory for KCMG, and Phoenix Racing Asia with position 3 for Sean Thong from Hong Kong. Rick is very fast into taking the cork out of the champagne, and he is celebrating in fine style with Martin Rump, who was just a little slow in the run.
Well, they are just about old enough to drink, so spray the bubbly. So let's talk a little bit more about the race. One thing I did notice after that safety car came out, Alex had his spin. Certainly wasn't doing any weaving as the others were trying to keep their tyres up to temperature. Do you think perhaps there was damage, or it's just personal style there?
It could be personal style. I mean, it depends on the way they structured the cars. We're talking about in commentary that they set the cars up for the tyres to come on early or come on late. That works on tyre pressure. You either start them high or start them low. So that means the car will get greater grip as the race goes on, or start with more immediate grip. And that appeared to me what Alessio Picariello had done off the start. He got his pressures up high off the start, got away from the field in the hope that he could use the push to pass, get the brake, but then of course the safety car intervention came. So the weaving was to keep the tyre pressures and the temperatures up so that when they went to restart, he still had that grip to get away from the field. So he used that to good advantage, but he did not look troubled. He didn't look like he was ever really under threat. So it was a good run. Pirelli caps fitting very nicely on top of the man who is going to take full points away from this first round of the 2017 championship. Dindo Capello, of course, 3 times Le Mans winner and multiple winner of the Sepang 12-hour. He is standing there on the podium. Of course, we've seen a number of the Audi family stars as part of the Audi R8 LMS Cup in recent years. Of course, we had Alan McNish appear a couple of times last year, Tom Christensen too, teammates to Dindo Capello, who's been retired for a few more years, but hopefully we'll hear a little bit more from him a little bit later. But really was a great start to this season. And who stood out for you? I mean, what did you see from your vantage point as that race played out?
I think one of the people that went a little bit under the radar ahead of time was Mitch Gilbert. Of course, he had that disappointing finish to the race, unable to get the points, but he was pretty well placed in second. And I think We talked on the commentary, we were talking about how, of course, all the cars are the same, so driver skill does stand out. But of course, they do have separate service teams. Within those service teams, you have the shared data. So you've got Mitch and you've got Alessio. They're able to look at how the other one drives around exactly every corner. Mitch was talking to us earlier before the race and said that's a real advantage. He says Alessio's been driving brilliantly. He's got a little bit more experience in the car than him, so he was able to learn a lot from that. It certainly seemed to be an advantage for Mitch until he had the issue at the end.
Well, we saw that last year with the Phoenix Racing Asia squad. Of course, it was the first season for them. They won 2 races in the GT Asia Series, Pro-Am Cup champion for Sean Thong, and they're feeding off the back of all the experience of Alex Young and Marchi Lee. We're with Sophie, and she's with Rick Yoon down there on the podium.
Joining me now is Rick Young, and he's also the winner for the amateur category. So, Rick, congratulations for the podium here in Malaysia for the very first race of the whole season. Talk about your race today, especially your contact with Jeffrey Lee.
Yes. So at T9, basically I passed him on the inside, and we both made a corner at T9. So I was actually a bit faster on the exit. And into T10, he hit me from the behind. So I was like turning this way. And then I felt, oh, come on, there goes my race. And then I happened to make like 180-degree turn, and then there was Jeffrey. And then I hit him, and we both like make a ballet move. And then when I was like looking back, I'm back on the straight. So there you go. And then he ended up in a grapple. After the safety car, the next move was basically I managed to catch up with KOU. I managed to pass him on the last corner when he was a bit late on the brake. So that was a bit of interesting. I managed to defend him on T1, but after that it was too much. So.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's definitely a great move for you. And now let's back to our boys upstairs.
Well, good to see Rick on the podium as well, getting his trophy from the amateur class. We talked about Mitch Gilbert. We noticed during the race quite a lot of slipping and sliding towards the back of the car. Is that just him getting to grips with the circuit, with the series, and perhaps the new tyres?
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with setup of tyres, setup of the car, also being prepared for the track conditions. So there's still a little bit for the teams to learn, but they were really on the edge. I mean, again, I go back to the condition of Martin Rump after he finished the race. He'd worked very hard. They really were all pushing very, very hard and right on the limit. So I don't think you could point too much towards things not being all that much to their liking, but they were really just at it. This has been a tough race. It may have looked fairly casual from where we were sitting, but they were really hard at it right through that 13-lap race distance.
Well, the conditions certainly cooperated. Looked for a moment, Alessio had perhaps a little bit of rain out there with the wipers on, but seemed to largely hold away. But let's take a look at
the way the race played out in the end. Alessio Picariello took the victory, 13 laps in, fastest lap of the race, 2:01.540. Martin Rump, position 2. Sean Thong inherited position 3, I would say, pretty much as a result of his teammate Alex Young having that off, and of course certainly Mitch Gilbert pulling into the pits and retiring. Frankie Cheng, position number 4. Marchi Lee, position 5. Stefan Richelmi, he pulled out position 6 in the Castrol Racing Team entry. Akash Nandi, position 7 for KCMG. Alex Young recovered for position 8, and his teammate KOU in the Audi Korea car ahead of Rick Yoon.
Yeah, Alex just kind of ran out of laps at the end, didn't he? He had some of those push-to-passes in reserve after the skid. It was good that he was able to rejoin so quickly, but in such a short race, sprint races like this, just 30 minutes or so, didn't have enough time to get back up to sort of push for a podium place.
Well, he may have had other issues. I mean, we were alluding to that during the course of the race, just before he had that off, and the car didn't look 100% settled. So they're working hard to get to grips with this. Again, it was a new tyre, so a lot of these teams haven't had time to prepare and test and do lots of miles with the new tyre. There are going to be subtle differences. They're not major differences to what they've done in the past, but it is something that they need to consider. So, and it's the start of a new season. As we were talking to Alessio Picariello earlier, he said it had been a while since he'd been behind the wheel of a car, so he's probably a little bit, I don't know, not race ready, shall we say, but it didn't look like that certainly by the
full Italian name. I'm quite proud about it because, you know, as Italian, I have to be proud of something. And he showed really high performance. Also, I was just checking the quickest race lap, and it was really, really fast because it was more than, I think, 7:10 faster than the second one, than the second fastest, which means that he has really high potential. And then I think he used the push-to-pass strategy in the right way. That's it. Alex, he was a little bit on the limit, I think. The mistake he has done, it can happen. Just bad luck that what he hit, he made the car jumping, and then the rebound when he land, he just make him spinning. But I think he is ready for a fight again tomorrow.
Tino, I just want to pick up on something that you mentioned while you were watching the race up here. You said, the commentators, they just said how about that pressure from Sean was not going to affect Alex whatsoever. Moments later, there he is.
That was really funny.
Might have been you.
That is funny because I was thinking about an Italian show we have. It's called, when you, in Italian we say, gufare. It means gufare come from the owl, the bird. It means they bring bad luck. When you say there's something it would not happen, and suddenly it happened. Yeah. And the speaker just said, with the experience of Alex, the flashing, it doesn't make any problem to him, and a few seconds later he made the mistake, and then I was laughing really.
I have no idea who might have said that, but it certainly wouldn't have been me. But just quickly cutting to Audi, you spent a lot of your career with Audi, and talking to Alan McNish last year, he said, I raced for a number of teams around the world, but he said, I swear if you cut me in half, you'd see the 4 rings through the middle of me. It's like family. I loved my time. I'm so proud to still be a part of Audi. I mean, do you feel the same way after the varied career that you had over many, many years?
Yeah, what Alan said is really true. And for me, I would say this link to Audi to the 4 rings is even stronger because after 19 years as a racing driver, as factory driver from Audi, since I stopped, I'm running a Audi dealership in Italy. Therefore, my link to Audi is even stronger than before. And actually, for me to promote, to be ambassador of the Audi Sport product, for me something really special because it was always my dream when I was a driver to use the name Audi Sport even for a road car. And since the Audi Sport is a brand of the factory regarding RS model and R8, for me something really, really great. And for me, as driver before and dealer now, I feel that I have a perfect link to the strategy of the company, of Audi.
I'm going to ask you a question that's probably relevant this weekend. We've talked about the battle between we'll use the word veterans, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody with that. I'm sure I'm going to get a hard time from Marchie and certainly Alex a little bit later. But when you're getting towards the end of your career and you're battling a lot of these young guys coming in, and a lot of them are trying to prove a point and really, really push, how do you cope with that? Can you use experience and a little bit of guile and cunning to stay ahead of them, or has there come a point where they're just too quick and too hungry?
For me, okay, it depends a lot from how clever is the old driver who has to fight with the young. Because if I talk about myself, when I was close to the end of my career, I always took the young driver as a benchmark to understand how long I could still continue to be at very high level. Because to continue and lose performance, I think is something that a clever driver, especially if you get a lot of success in your career, you don't want to end your career in a bad way. Therefore, I think the right moment to end your career, racing career, is when you are still at the top, but you start to feel that could be soon, it could come a point where you would struggle against the younger driver. And that's exactly what I did. Once I felt that some young drivers were coming and I was struggling a little bit more to keep my performance, I try to schedule my retirement, and then it happened in a very smooth way and in a very nice way. And I think it's as every sportsman should do, because I really do not like people that start to remember what they have done in the past and they forgot or they forget the present. What is important is very important what you have done, but it's also so important to say stop at the right moment.
Well, it was a great career for you. Congratulations on what had been an outstanding time, and thank you for coming to talk to us. It was great to hear from you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And what do you think when you see these old guys versus the young guys? I mean, you've seen a little bit of it up close this weekend. Do you think that Alex Young might be able to go 4 championships in a row?
Yeah, for sure. He has the experience, he has the performance, he has everything you need to fight for a championship. From the other side, you have a young competitor, really angry and hungry. Therefore, you have really to work even harder than before. That's also a point which make you can use a young driver as a benchmark, because at one stage of your career when you think that you already achieved everything you could achieve, and you have a younger driver which is a little bit faster than you, as fast as you have to work harder, even if you are towards to the end of your career. But if you want to keep performance, you have to start at a certain age when you think is the right age to relax, to work even harder if you want to continue and keep performance. If you just race for fun, then you can do what you want, enjoying life, drinking, going to the disco. But if you want to be a professional and stay at a certain level, you have to work hard until the end of the career.
And just a final note before you go, I think there's an extra element in this part of the world. You know, there is the young generation, there's the new generation, but that older generation is helping the next wave try to develop motorsports in Asia. Yes, of course, they're all competing on the track with each other, but they're also trying to develop the sport with Audi here for the future. And you know, how much do you think that plays into it? Perhaps not when they're right on the track, but maybe they take a teammate under your wing, like even if they're half your age, but you're really trying to develop them away from the races.
But that, I think, is something which is different compared Asia, for example, and Europe, because we have a strong tradition since ever in motorsport, starting from England to all the other countries in Europe, talking about Formula One before the war, and then all the kind of motorsport immediately after the war, the Second War. Therefore, for us, it's kind of tradition, is part of our DNA. For Asia, it's something much newer, younger. Therefore, I think the young generation can push really fast and forward the motorsport in this in Asia, compare a young generation can do in Europe, because for us it's a kind of standard. For Asia, everything is young, is new. Therefore, the younger generation is really the right tool to push motorsport very quickly at the top, like in Europe a few years ago.
Thank you, Dindo. Absolutely fantastic. Great for you to be with us, and looks like we might be just about ready to go across, Mark, to the press conference.
Yes, we'll just have a quick another look back at the highlights, and then we'll be joining the press conference with the top 3 drivers.
Okay, welcome everybody to the press conference for round 1 of the 2017 Audi R8 LMS Cup here at Sepang in Malaysia. And winner of round 1, receiver of the Pirelli fastest lap of the race, and also special champagne from his team Absolute Racing. Congratulations, Alessio Picariello. In second, congratulations, Martin Rump, Champion Racing Team. And third, Sean Tung of Tida Racing. Congratulations, Sean. Thank you. And we also congratulate the winner of the M Cup competition, Rick Yoon of KCMG. Congratulations. I might have go back to the history book a bit, but I firmly believe that we have today the youngest podium ever. Alessio 23, Martin and Sean are both 21. So it really shows that some of the best talents from the region and even some from Europe are here racing with us. So it's a great start into the season. Alessio, please talk us a little bit through your race. You had a clean start, you got away, you put 5 seconds between you and Mitch at one point. Then the safety car came out and put it all together again, but didn't harm your final result. You went off again. Talk us through it a little bit from your perspective.
Well, yeah, I had pretty good start. Not perfect, but not bad. I could keep the lead, so that was enough. And yeah, from the beginning on, I felt I had a really good balance on the car, so I was really confident. And I pushed like the three first laps to build a gap. And I didn't even need to use the push to pass actually to pull away, so that was really good. It wasn't easy though, because there was some raindrops, so I mean, we are in Malaysia and we know that when it starts to rain it's pretty heavy, so actually I was expecting some big rain, but it never came. And yeah, actually then the safety car arrived. Obviously when you are leading, you never want to, with such a gap, you never want to have a safety car, but I was really confident. I had a lot of push to pass left, and I got a good restart, and yeah, once again I could pull away from the pack, so pretty good race.
Thanks, Alessio. Alessio finished last year's season in second overall, only 1 point behind Alex Young. I guess you have showed today that you're in for it again, as did Martin Rump, the winner of the last 2 races of last season. Martin, your race, how was it for you?
It was perfect. Thank you, Martin. First of all, I would like to thank KCMG for the good race pace setup. I really enjoyed it on the track. Team champion to bring me here, and the weatherman to not give us heavy rain during the race. So I was happy to do this race. The pace was just was good. One thing, I had to wait with push to pass. So in the beginning I was defending, obviously, from Alex after overtaking him. So I had to, take care of not letting him too close. But at the same time, I didn't use them too much to, for example, set the fastest lap. So I had to conserve a bit. And then in case, he attacks back or whoever charges me towards the end of the race. So I was a little bit conservative with the push to pass. But nevertheless, it was a very, very good race. And I showed some proper times, I think.
Thanks, Martin. Sean, also, first podium of the season in the first race. Very good start to the season for you. He was also very motivated during the race when you were behind Alex Young, putting your flashlights on all the time, telling him, I'm coming. Talk us a little bit through this thing with Alex.
First, I need to thank you, Phoenix Racing Asia, Audi Hong Kong, and Tida. The team actually worked very hard to get me a a good race pace setup because we struggle a lot in qualify and practice. So I'm really happy. We actually found improvement in the race. I didn't have the best start, and when I actually made the start, I see people using push to pass, and I was actually late on it. So actually, I lost 2 places, but I think I made back places before turn 1, and throughout the race, I found I got better pace than Alex, so I was giving him a lot of pressure, and actually it was tricky because the rain started to drop, and I'm right behind him, and I lose downforce when I'm behind the car. So yeah, he made a mistake and went off, and I think I just need to keep the pace because Alessio and Martin did better than I do because I can't catch them up. So I think at the end I just need to focus and finish the race and get the points for the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Rick, also exciting race for you, a lot of battles. You did the whole revolving door thing together with Jeffrey. How was it there?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have to thank the team, KCMG as well. It was a great race setup, and it was quite nice view actually from all the way behind the pack that all these pros are competing in front. But also it gives me an idea of how to race. Overall, it was a great experience of catching up with Jeffrey. Finally made a move on turn 9 and passed him at turn 9, and then into turn 10. Basically, Jeffrey, we had a contact. I had a contact from the behind, and I thought that was the end of the race. But when I was spinning onto the right-hand side, I saw Jeffrey's car, and we both made a wide stance move, like 360 degree, and I ended up back onto the track, and from there, here you go. After safety car, I managed to watch the fight between Akash and the KOU in front of me, and then took an opportunity to pass KOU once. But it was almost impossible to defend against the pro, so I had to, basically he took the position back. It was a pretty exciting race for me.
Alessio, when the safety car came out, what did you think in that moment?
Yeah, I had better times actually. So yeah, like I say, when you're leading with such a gap, you never want to see a safety car. But yeah, my car was pretty much perfect. We worked really hard, all practices with Absolute Racing and my engineer to really work on the race pace, and yeah, I think we showed that we were strong in the race, so I wasn't that worried, and I had a lot of push to pass, so everything was more or less under control, I guess.
Okay, I would now like to open the floor for your questions. Please raise your arm if you have one. Yes, please.
We'll see how this goes. All right, let's see how this goes. Alessio, you look pretty casual, you're smiling, you look pretty cool, calm and collected, but was it as easy as that? I mean, did you really have to push hard? And also tyre strategy. What did you do with tyre strategy for the team? You probably won't give much away, but was that part of the advantage that you had so early in the race?
Well, actually, we didn't really have a strategy. We didn't know what to expect really in the race. So yeah, it was just all about staying in the front and trying to conserve the tires for the end of the race. It wasn't really warm, so I think it wasn't such a problem to keep the tires all the way. But you know, to win a race is never easy. So even though the pace was really good, the track wasn't easy. The track is a bit dirty, and if you go a bit offline, you directly lose 1 or 2 seconds. Actually, there is a lot of pickups. So, but yeah, like I said, everything was under control, and at the moment, so far, is all right.
Okay. More questions? You can do another one.
Thank you, I will, Martin. Martin Rump, how was it for you? You looked like you actually had to work fairly hard in that race, and talking through what Alessio has just said, there was a few cars going over the curbs. People looked like they were really on the limit and pushing pretty hard. It looked pretty pedestrian from where we were sitting and watching the cars on screen, but you guys really looked to be pushing fairly hard when you cut to it.
No, of course, we race drivers, we push really hard to drive the car and bring it to the finish as quickly as we can, especially if there's so many drivers, so many quick drivers together on the track at the same time, so close together. you have to make sure that you push so hard, and not make mistakes at the same time, so that you keep ahead, or at least keep close to the car in front of you to be able to overtake. And yeah, I was pushing really hard after overtaking Alex. To pull a gap, and I mean, the push to pass feature definitely gave me some thinking. I mean, I was going through a lot of calculation in my head while I was driving, so more than normal, to be sure that I don't make any mistakes using too many push to pass too early, or using at the wrong time or whatnot. So definitely it was a tough race, but as Alessio said, he was feeling confident. I was also feeling confident with how the car worked, and that I knew that I had pace whenever I need. So that was the main thing, really, to take for tomorrow.
More questions? If that is not the case, then I would like to say thank you very much to the media for coming out today, watch the race, and be with us for the whole day. And there's the next day, tomorrow. The race starts at 12:50 on Sunday here at Sepang, round 2 of the Audi R8 LMS Cup. I would like to say thank you very much to the drivers for a great show of sport today, and to all the hundreds of guests. Now your Audi race night starts. Thank you very much, and see you.